Another question that a lot of us have had before is, including me actually, is what's the point of making dua if everything is already predetermined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in al-Lawh al-Mahfuz before you were even born, right? What is the point of making dua then if everything is already predetermined? So that means my fate is already written, right? But to be honest with you, I've had this question for so long, and I've heard so many explain it. Can dua change your fate? And I've had so many answers, but to be honest, to me, none of them satisfied me. So I kept asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me the answer for so long until I came up with this method. So I hope it helps. So to answer it simply, first of all, can dua change your fate? Yes, it can. But not the way you think it changes. Let's get a little more detail on that. By the way, sorry, just to clarify, when I say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it implies that He did not write what's best for me. I meant it more as in He changed His mind. And Allah obviously is all-knowing, so He would not make mistakes. That's more what I meant. So the reason none of the answers satisfied me is because, in a way, we are talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? He writes what's best for you, not what's good enough. And He obviously is not going to write something wrong or bad for you, right? Precisely. So if, in a way, to me, if I say dua can change my fate right now, if I make a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right now, it's going to change my fate that was written. To me, in an indirect way, that is saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not write the best fate for me. Because if He changed it, it means it wasn't good. Or it wasn't not good. It wasn't good enough. And now He made it better, right? The dua changed it. But Allah writes what's best for me already. So, but I just said right now that dua can change it does change your fate. But like I said, not the way we expect. So let's now dive into more detail about that. Imagine al-Lawh al-Mahfuz was not finished yet. Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz is the book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written, and yes, has written. It's already done. It's written. Everything is predetermined. That lies under His throne. No angel, no one touches that book except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's almost like it's locked in chains. Nobody has access to it. So it never changes. But that book was being written as He was creating the world. In other words, before we're even born, that book was not written yet. So there's actually the famous hadith from the Rasul, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that said, "Rufi'at al-aqlam wa gaffat as-suhuf." That is referring to al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, that it was written from so long ago that the pages basically have dried up from the ink. Subhanallah. So how does that answer my question? How does it change my fate then? As the book was being written before you were born, you, because Allah knows everything that's going to happen, you, because He saw the past, present, and future, you're basically, just say your future self, okay? Your future self made a dua at that point in time, and that is written in the Lawh al-Mahfuz as your fate was being written. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the fate according to your dua as the book was being written. And that's why. So it does change your fate as your fate was being written, but it doesn't change it in our present right now, in our present. It doesn't change it in our present. It changes it when it was being written. That's the only difference. So yes, it does change fate, but not the way we think it means by changing fate. So obviously this is a very complicated topic. We try to simplify, as we said. That's actually, if I remember correctly, is a quote from Einstein. if you're not able, if I remember correctly, it's something that along those lines, if you can't simplify something that is complex, you probably don't know what you're talking about. So let's try to simplify this complex topic as much as we can. Let's go very simple. Let's say right now, I asked for a car from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I made a dua, I wanted a car. Okay? Now, I got the car. Did that change my fate of something else that was written? Now let's think of it in another way. Yes, it did, but not the way we're thinking. Right now, it was written that I was going to get a bus, for example. It was written that I was going to get a bus. But because I made the dua, right now I got a car instead? No, because that implies in an indirect way Allah did not write what's best for me, right? No. So, before I was born, because Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz has everything written in it. Everything written. Okay? So, Allah was writing the book, right? The pages were not dried up. He was writing the book, obviously. And at that point in time, right now, he said, so-and-so has made a dua to me at that point in time that he wants a car. And originally he was going to write a bus, for example, but that changed the fate. And yes, no, if he was still going to write a bus, he is all-knowing. He is the all-wise. He knows. But the dua changed the fate, and still it is what's best for you, because Allah would not answer it if it is not best for you, obviously. So yes, in other words, it did change your fate, but not right now in our timeline. It was before we were born, and your future self, in a way, because Allah sees all timelines, past, present, and future, has made the dua, and that was written in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, and even though it is predetermined, it was also predetermined that you made the dua at that time. So in other words, if you hadn't made the dua, yes, that is bad, because Allah has said himself, you need to always pray to make du'as, as also, by the way, dua is part of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if you don't know what to even ask for from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just make dua. Even just make dua to help keep you steadfast in your faith in Islam, things like that. That still counts. Or just, oh Allah, I don't know what to ask from you, so just bring me something that you know I would love. There. That's a beautiful dua right there. See, at the top of my head, it doesn't have to be something you just, I don't know what to ask right now, so I'm not going to ask for anything. No. Always depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything. Even if you have a pen, a ridiculous something small as a pen, it just falls on the ground and you don't know, you can't find it. You misplaced it. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to find the pen for you. We don't have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for just the things that we all ask him for, you know, money. Oh Allah, bring me happiness, marriage. No, even ask for the small things. In fact, that's actually going to make him love you more. Because that truly says, this servant really does depend on Allah for everything. If he's asking him for a pen that you could easily just replace with something else. And no, you ask Allah to find a pen for you, that is something beautiful. SubhanAllah.